Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Okay, all you citizens of the world, it's time for the finale of Live from the Heartland for the week of February 14th. And once a month, I bring on Cousin Adam. Played football at Northwestern, worked in some of the same movies together. He's a trainer, a producer, and an actor with a new TV or online series called Doc Savage, Man of Copper. And Adam, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Super Bowl and post-Super Bowl, a little bit about Here Comes Baseball. We got basketball and a bunch of other things. Let's start with the Super Bowl and maybe go to the diciest segment of the Super Bowl, which was halftime. What do you got? And good morning down there in California.
Great to see you. And hello, everybody in the Heartland. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here. So the Super Bowl was just this last weekend. And while the game wasn't great, it was a great event. One of the most watched television events ever, the most watched Super Bowl ever, an amazing result as far as the success of this event. It's grown over the years. A dear friend of mine who I've known for many years passed away now, a gentleman named Wendell Niles. He was very close with Hunt, and he actually went to the very first Super Bowl. So his family was posting some photos back in 1966 when Lamar Hunt called him up and said, I can't get enough people to go to the game. Can I give you 25 tickets? Will you bring the whole family? So Wendell took photos with his whole family going to the Super Bowl at the Rose Bowl that year. What amazing change over the years.
Yeah, now, what are the tickets? What did they cost this year?
They were $12 in 1966, and now they're like, what is it, $5,000?
I went in '85 down to the Super Bowl when the Bears won in New Orleans, and I think Dave Megasy got me the tickets, but I think they were only $70 then.
Very cool. Well, that of course is one of the great sports teams in history, not only great football teams, but the 1985 Bears. The Bears, what a great team, a great organization. Let's get back there, right, Chicago? Now, in regards to Super Bowls, I will just on a quick personal note, my dad actually went to the number 7 Super Bowl, which was in Houston and played at Rice University Stadium. And I remember I was 7 years old at the time. And I remember my mother saying, your dad's at the Super Bowl. And I was like, I'm going to watch this for the rest of my life.
And you do.
Exactly. And I will say that one of the best parts of this Super Bowl was the halftime show, as it's often become the case. And a lot of people were, taking it in different ways. But I'll tell you, I thought it was fantastic. It was a great show. It was very well performed, very well produced. And I will mention, because a lot of people have been creating some controversy about the halftime show, some people pointing out that they preferred it when you had a marching band. Well, in 1966, at the first Super Bowl, they did have a marching band, and they did all the way until the early 90s. They would have a marching band or some, various local entertainers performing. But in 1992, there was a very popular television show called In Living Color, which was a bunch of young African-American, Black entertainers, comedians, musicians. They had a young Jim Carrey performing on that show, but Jamie Foxx and the Wayans brothers, a young Jennifer Lopez as one of the dancing performers, and they had hip-hop performers every week. And what In Living Color did in 1992, Fox Television at that time didn't have football, and they were determined to get in on that party. So they put on a halftime show of their own on their own channel. Right when it went to halftime in the Super Bowl, Fox went live with In Living Color, and they captured a massive audience. And the Super Bowl the NFL decided, we're never going to let that happen again. In the very next year, what did they do? They came out with Michael Jackson. They had Michael Jackson as the halftime show. They made it like a little mini concert within this Super Bowl game, and they never looked back. And over the years, it's been a variety of different acts. Everybody from the Rolling Stones to, Bruno Mars and a variety of other performers. But it's usually been, a group of kind of what we'd call legacy performers, classic rock or well-known performers that have been around for a long time and maybe not so popular right now, certainly not necessarily with the major NFL fan base, and certainly not with the type of people that are the players of the NFL. In other words, the Black community. So over the last few years, they've actually really strived to embrace that. They had an amazing performance here in Los Angeles with all of the performers from, the Los Angeles area, with Dr. Dre leading the way. And it was a tremendous show. And this year they went with this phenomenal artist, Kendrick Lamar. Whether you like that type of music or not, you got to give it up to the amazing success that this young man has had. He's a multi-millionaire, sold tons of albums, and the music community has embraced him as somebody truly special. He's won not one, not two, but 22 Grammy Awards. He is a true genius of musical talent, and his performance was special. It was a revolutionary statement. He was putting on a clear statement to America and to the world of what's going on for a lot of these young Black people in our country, and a lot of people in general. So I thought the show was really terrific. Great job by Kendrick Lamar and the NFL.
And I think I couldn't decide who to root for, but before that show, I looked up and saw that Mahomes' wife and his mother are both MAGA people. He's kind of walked a very careful line about it, but Philadelphia was a different deal. Philadelphia was not; they're not MAGA. That's a part of Pennsylvania that did go blue, and I did see the Rolling Stones at the Super Bowl in Detroit. I think it was Seattle played Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Yeah, I was at that one, and I remember Mick Jagger dancing around. So that's the Super Bowl. No more football. I'm tired of football till next year. Here comes baseball, but first, a little bit on basketball. We had some big trades going on. The Bulls, the Bulls, 1 minute, I think they're going to really break through with the youth, and the next minute they get slaughtered by Detroit.
The NBA is an interesting product. It's an interesting business because it's very top heavy in regards to talent and performance. In other words, if you have one of these players who just is a transcending player, it really affects your overall team's prospects. There's a saying within the business side of the NBA: you're either great or you're terrible. You don't want to be in the middle. It's not a good place to be as the mediocre team. You'll never get a shot at drafting one of those superstar players. Those superstar players will never come to your city when they're a free agent. If you're not a great team, you might as well tank and see if you can get a high draft pick. And by the way, this upcoming draft for the NBA is going to have some amazing players, several of them, not just this one guy from Duke who everybody's talking about, but there's like 3 or 4 guys that are all really great. They're going to have a big impact on the team they go to. So the Chicago Bulls are in a tough spot, and they will be for a while. It's unfortunate for Chicago basketball fans, but it's just the reality. As bad as people feel for the Chicago Bull fans, you got to feel really bad for the Dallas Maverick fans. I mean, good God. Here in Los Angeles, I've been living here for a good 20 years. I've become a bit of a Lakers fan, and Laker fans are in heaven. This was an unbelievable trade that happened just last week. The Lakers were able to pull off a trade privately, very behind the scenes with the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas Mavericks had a tremendous player from Europe, Luka Doncic, who is really an interesting story. As a young child, he showed a tremendous talent. So by the time he was a teenager, a young teen, 14, I was 15, he was already signed to play in the Pro League. By 16, he was in the European Professional League playing against men. By 18, he was named the best player of that league and won the whole championship, being the MVP of the league and the MVP of the championship. And he came over to the NBA. And during his time in the NBA, he's done nothing but win, win, win. Now, he's a kind of a bigger player for his position, and he tends to play at a slower pace. And some people think it's slow or lazy. And he definitely has had some weight issues over the last few years. So that apparently is what the Dallas Mavericks were uncomfortable with going forward. Signing him to a max deal was the long-term prospects for his health and conditioning and his attitude, all of which makes little sense. The guy has done nothing but play nonstop and played very well. So they traded him. Lakers got him. They had a revealing party the other night. It was lights out. It was phenomenal. I really respect and appreciate LeBron James and how he's handled it. He's the star of this team, but rather than feeling, I got to share the spotlight here, he has embraced it, and he's pushed Luka to the front of the stage. And in fact, on the night that they were getting ready to, reveal Luka, he said, I want you to go last. I want you to be introduced last. And he also leaned into him in that little huddle. And he said, just be yourself. Don't try to fit in. fit the F out. And he was just basically saying, don't move eggshells around here and try to walk, figure out where you fit in. Just go play, do your thing. So,
well, I don't know what. Yeah, I know that Andrew Davis is from Chicago. He did go to a charter school, not my favorite, but we only have a couple of minutes.
Yes, sir.
So give us a little bit on baseball season. I know that all over the news here, the Cubs catchers and pitchers and whole team, I think, have arrived. The White Sox are coming in. The White Sox had a terrible year. The Cubs didn't do so hot either. So I'm kind of rooting for both teams, but my passion is for the White Sox.
Yes, indeed. And this is the time of year that people get, excited about the possibilities. You look at the prospective lineup, you look at these players that have been coming up through the minor league, you read their history, you think about what they can become. It's exciting. And I do appreciate that. There's also this weird thing that's happened in sports lately where there's this real top heavy push. And as excited as people can feel about the Chicago 2 baseball teams, there is one team that is going to move the needle in this sport this next year. And they already moved it, and they're going to move it again. And that's the Dodgers. The guy they signed out of Japan, they signed this pitcher who is lights out. And this other guy, Shohei Ohtani, who's already done the 50-50, he's going to start pitching again this year. The Dodgers are loaded from top to bottom. Oh, and then they also signed the best reliever in the National League. I mean, the rich get richer. It is exciting for Dodger fans. But I would imagine for many baseball fans in general, and certainly smaller market teams, it's a little disheartening to look at that. But, that's capitalism. He signed with the team he wanted to. Coming out of Japan, he could have signed anywhere. And this is what he chose. So, God bless America. God bless baseball.
Well, Adam, we're going to have another sports report next month. But do you want to give us a 30-second health tip as you've been doing monthly for a while?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So this is the time of year that people are starting to get excited about their own health and fitness and working out. And I highly recommend it. Exercise, it should be a lifelong thing. You should be constantly working out. It makes you look better. It makes you feel better. It makes you perform better. And whatever it is that you're doing, the one thing I always encourage people to do when you start working out is talk to somebody who really knows what they're doing. Personal training is a very established enterprise in our communities. There's great personal trainers all over. They're not hard to find. You just kind of have to look and ask. Almost every trainer will give you a free first session, a free first workout, a free consultation. They'll sit down and tell you some of the things you should and shouldn't be doing. Take them up on a session or two. I recommend doing a couple of workouts with a professional trainer. Everybody's got a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. We get better when we work under the guidance of somebody who knows what they're doing and they can see you from outside of yourself. Sometimes it's hard to know whether you're doing things perfectly or correctly or as best as you can if you don't have somebody standing there telling you.
Well, I'm going to have to do it with you via Zoom because you could be my coach. So I want to thank you, Adam James, for coming on. See you next month, if not before.